Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Tonight's film is 1980's Foxes. And you can see the top billing is Jodie Foster right there, and this is a Blu-ray put out by Kino Lorber right here. This is the back. And this is 1980. This was directed by the director of Fatal Attraction, Adrian Lyne. And of course, we do have a young Jodie Foster in here, but after Taxi Driver. And we also have Sherry Curry, I believe, pretty much her only role after being in The Runaways. And we also have Randy Quaid in here, and also a very young Scott Baio. Well, everybody's young. This is 1980. Here it is, folks, 1980's Foxes. This film right here, you can see from the cover, right off the bat, you might think a few things. Is this a teen sex comedy? Is it a kind of a teen exploitation? What exactly am I getting myself into here? 1980 was definitely. I always find the films of 1980, 1981 very, very interesting because we're crossing over from the disco and we're getting into a whole new decade of of the very colorful consumer 80s, and there was a big change there. But that big change in the 80s really didn't happen until the 80s started to kind of go towards, maybe 82, 83, 84, really around there. So we had this nice in-between time where films really had a very brutal vibe about them. I don't know what it is, but the 1980, 1981, you even look at like William Lustig's Maniac. There's a very brutal vibe about this transition into the 80s. And this film right here is really kind of a dark, gritty, dramatic, fun, wild kind of a capsule of these four best friends, these four teen best friends in LA, and their family situations, drug situations, sex situations, and really kind of capturing a bit of time in their lives and what ensues. We go into the film here. I mean, right off the bat, the cinematography in this movie, I knew from the opening credit sequence that I was in for a treat here. The cinematography in this film is really, really well done. It's very artistic in the way that it's shot, in the way that it's edited even, and it's also very gritty and powerful and abrasively shot where needed. There are a couple sequences here with Sherry Curry's father, the man who plays her father in the film, where the filming gets very abrasive, especially the first time that you meet him, and there is it's the camera almost takes on that 70s documentary style sometimes, and it gets very oppressive in the way that it's filmed, really close up, and it's shaking all over the place, and it's like you're in it, not Hollywood, not Hollywood shots in that regard. Starts to get very abrasive, and it might remind you of a lot of the disturbing 70s films, some years before that. I will say also that the music in this film is amazing. If you love, 70s music, if you love disco in particular, this movie has amazing music. And the main theme song is Donna Summer's On the Radio. Now, you have to also understand that Giorgio Moroder also did the score and the music in this film, and he of course is known for Flashdance. He's known for Cat People. Man, I mean, the man is known for really starting a lot of the synthesized movie score music. Unbelievable genius. And actually, the soundtrack is available on a gatefold vinyl, which is awesome. You can pick that up, and also cassette. I don't believe it ever made the transition to CD, and the soundtrack kind of pulsates and moves throughout the whole film. You have disco numbers, you have montages, and it just pulsates through the whole film. And of course, you have kind of a dramatic version of On the Radio that kind of plays throughout the film as well. this is a film about characters, without a doubt. The four main girls, of course, and their different personalities and their different family situations, and then the families themselves, their parents. Great acting in this movie. Of course, Jodie Foster, just very dramatic, very dark at times, very confusing at times. Some of the dialogue in this film at times is disturbing, and you're not quite sure what's being said. Randy Quaid's character talking about beating a young girl, just very weird stuff sometimes that come out of people's mouths. There's some very there's some violent sequences in this film, some chaos that erupts in this film, some blood, and it's there's some disturbing storylines in this film as well. Involving families, involving tons of drug use. We have a lot of sexuality in this film in dialogue, but there is no nudity really. Of course, the four main girls are exuding a form of definitely some sexuality in this film, but not as much as you would be possibly used to. I would say the opening credit sequence kind of has the most in a lot of regards, as the California sun kind of cascades on these girls that are just kind of sleeping on the floor and sleeping on a bed. This is a film primarily that gets rough and gritty, and it reminded me in tone of another film that I reviewed on this YouTube page called Streets, from early 90s with Christina Applegate. But essentially having a violent, dark, dramatic, disturbing at times, gritty, fun at times. Sure, there's definitely some fun in here, but there's always that presence of darkness that kind of is hovering over the fun. That something bad is going to happen. But there's a lot of great camaraderie in this film, teenage camaraderie. There's elements of this film that might feel like a teen sex comedy. There's elements of this film that might feel like teen exploitation, from the 70s. And it really reminded me a lot of the modern film on Cherie Curry's band, The Runaways, that modern film that came out called The Runaways. It reminded me of that kind of that dark, confused, rough type of film involving teenagers. There's definitely, you get a nice slice of the 70s or late 70s in this film as well. They go to a concert at the Shrine Auditorium, in California. And this is a film that really kind of gives you those snapshots of the 70s, and definitely snapshots of California and Van Nuys Boulevard and North Hollywood. You're getting these snapshots. And I feel like a lot of the times you have the gritty films from New York City, and then you have the gritty films from the West Coast, from California. And the interesting thing about the gritty films of California, like Fox's, is that California has this laid back type of vibe in comparison to, the stressed out East Coast. But in the underbelly of this perfect weather of California, and is this decadence, is this violence, is this kind of sleazy underbelly and abuse and chaos and drug and alcohol induced chaos. We also do have a sleazy element in this film as well at times. Yeah, just kind of alluded to at times, but there are some sleazy moments that kind of flow off of sleazy areas in LA. But these LA films, which was also like the film Streets that I reviewed on this YouTube page, Christina Applegate's first film, there's a darkness amongst the palm trees. There's a darkness in North Hollywood. And if you visited Hollywood, you can sense that darkness that is there even amongst the Hollywood stars on the sidewalk. So this is a really awesome film. It's a very powerful film, and it's a fun film. It's a dramatic film. There's exploitation in this film. There's a very, very bizarre married couple in a car near the end of this movie that involves something pretty climactic in the film. Some very a couple that you would see in like an exploitation film, or this would be a couple that would be like the main people in a Jess Franco film. But you'll see what I mean if you see this part. Very bizarre, bizarre couple, sleazy, weird, and just interesting. The wife's name is Bert. Folks, this is 1980s Foxes. This is it right here, folks. Great, great cover right there. This is put out by Kino Lorber, and it looks awesome. It really, really looks awesome. And you have a commentary and an on-camera interview. But this is a great movie right here, folks. Foxes. You can pick it up. I think they also released it on DVD as well. This is rated R. There it is, folks. And wow, a young Jodie Foster in here as well. Pretty wild. If you're fans of The Runaways, another movie right here for you also. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarre YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Please feel free to check out all my other reviews on this YouTube page. Oh my gosh, from sexploitation, exploitation, horror, underground, weird, bizarre, tons of Jess Franco, teen sex comedies. It's all here. Thank you so much, and please feel free to check out my own personal films at youtube.com/poopy diarrhea. Thank you, and good night.